I was going to talk about the Denver Broncos next and a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys, considering what they want to do with the number 9 and number 10 draft pick, and we'll get to that later in the show. But I wanted to talk about this first because it's been on my mind pretty heavily. It's been on my mind. I've had a couple days to think about what I want to say about this. It's going to be a little rough to talk about. These things they're rarely easy to talk about. One of the most popular videos and one of the most popular takes on this show so far, especially when it comes to views on YouTube, was when I talked about Chad Wheeler. And if you don't remember who Chad Wheeler is, Chad Wheeler was the former Seattle Seahawks offensive lineman who nearly choked his girlfriend to death twice, dislocated her elbow, and beat her to a bloody pulp. He had attempted to murder her during a manic episode due to him being off his bipolar medication. And at the time, my argument was, look, once you're off your medication, you forfeit every single right to use mental health as an excuse for your actions. You need to stay on your medication. Wheeler has no excuse. He should be in jail for attempting to murder his girlfriend. And at the time, I was a little upset that that was the video that was kind of getting the attention. I'm always happy to see videos doing well, especially for my channel size. It's a new channel. It's a new show. It's growing. I want it to grow, as anybody would, and I was a little upset that that was the video that was getting attention because it's so negative and it's covering something so horrific. It's like, why can't something more positive get some more attention? Like why can't my rant on how the Eagles have completely fluffed their season for the next couple of seasons, for example, why can't that be the video that blows up? It's got to be the video about domestic abuse, right? But on the other hand, I was also a little relieved that people were more or less agreeing with my position and people were taking kindly to my opinion. Because once you dip your pinky toe into the proverbial controversial pool, there is a very big risk of a great white shark coming out of the pool and biting your foot off, so to speak. It's not a water you want to test too often, and I was happy with the outcome, even though the outcome was in the light of a horrific situation. And during that time, I called on the NFL to be better. I called on the NFL to do more to prevent struggling athletes like Wheeler from not only being on NFL teams in the first place, but from committing crimes outside of the NFL and outside of football. The NFL needed to do better preventing players like Wheeler from getting into the league, and they needed to do better protecting players like Wheeler outside of the league once they left the league, and not only protecting the players, but protecting the players' friends and the players' families or anybody that could be at risk if one of the players ends up flipping or snapping. So when I hear about Phillip Adams, 32-year-old former NFL cornerback, who on Wednesday shot a doctor and his wife, shot the doctor's grandchildren, two of them, one age 9, one age 5, I believe, and shot an air conditioning repairman at the house that just unluckily was there at the time. And I see that he was a former NFL cornerback, and now there are rumors suggesting, or let me retract a little bit on that. They are going to scan his brain in the autopsy for CTE. And the running theory being that the concussions he suffered while playing football, in combination with some other outside factors, he struggled with money. He went to this Doctor Lesslie for treatment, supposedly. So medication could be on the table as well. So whether it's CTE, whether it's financial trouble, whether it's depression, a whole combination of factors could have driven him to do this horrendous act, but a big proponent of that being CTE. And it all goes back to my point, my calling on the NFL to do better. There are programs to help NFL players outside of football if they need it. I'm not exactly sure what exactly they specialize in, but I'm sure there's one for drug abuse. I'm fairly sure that there's one for financial issues as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But there needs to be more done. I would argue, and maybe this is a little bit reactionary and a little bit extreme, but there needs to be a dedicated division of the NFL that is specifically tasked with keeping tabs on every NFL player, coach, assistant, Ball boy, I don't care how far you have to go down the tree to get to the roots. You need to check on everybody that has ever stepped foot or has any connection to the NFL. There needs to be tabs on those players to make sure that they are mentally well, financially okay, and not about to go off the deep end. Because Phillip Adams may be another case in which his life was spiraling out of control, especially with a pandemic, and this could have been prevented with a little bit more care by the NFL to take care of the players that have played in the NFL. Because by all reports, his family says that he was a happy person. He was a quieter person. He was described as a loner. Apparently, he made about $3.6 million during his time playing in the NFL, and he wanted to open a smoothie shop, and apparently that failed. So he was financially in trouble. He reneged on the opportunity to go and try out for the Indianapolis Colts at one point. His agent said, according to a New York Times article that I read this morning about it, he refused to, or not refused, but he was very uninterested in trying out for the NFL again. So he felt like his career was over. He was losing money. He had a child to take care of. He couldn't find work. And he was described as a chill, shy loner. And everybody thought that everything was fine, but if anybody struggles with mental health, you can point to the fact that it's the quiet ones that you need to look out for most of the time. And again, maybe it's a little bit of an overreaction, to say the least. But the fact that in the first 4 months of 2021, it's only April 9th. It's only been the first 4 months of this year, and the NFL has blood on their hands twice, and this one was even worse than Chad Wheeler. Chad Wheeler was horrible. He deserves to be in jail. He almost killed his girlfriend. There was blood on the NFL's hands there. There's some deep blood red on the NFL's hands in this situation. There needs to be more done. And I do not want to put all of the blame on the NFL, because obviously the people around Adams deserve a little bit of blame, and blame like a soft type of blame. You need to understand when somebody's struggling. You need to try and understand when somebody's struggling as well. Like, you can't just dogpile on the NFL like it appears that I'm doing a little bit. You can't just dogpile on the NFL and say, this is all your fault. You should have done better. You should have known better, because the NFL is a gigantic corporation. But with that being said, I still feel like there needs to be more done. There needs to be more done to check on players that are out of the NFL, because you can prevent things like this from happening. Hell, Mark Cuban, who was the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, essentially saved Delonte West, a former player of his, and wasn't a player for long, off the street, gave him a job, and put him into rehab. If more things like that happens in the NFL, in a sport in which mental health issues are very prevalent, there's a lot of violence. Players can be prone to health issues, can be prone to violence, can be prone to brain issues. I hope I'm coming off as clear as I want to be. It's not the NFL's fault specifically, but the NFL should still do more to try and prevent things like this from happening, to protect players, families, and to protect the people that NFL players or former NFL players associate with. That's all I'm saying. It's a heartbreaking situation. My heart hurts so poorly for those people that were killed in there and the rest of that family. And he killed children too. That's the messed up thing. He was clearly not in his right mind. But whether that's due to CTE, whether that's due to overwhelming depression, anxiety, insanity, you feel like the world is crumbling around you, whether it was financial troubles, who knows, right? But they're going to send his brain to be CTE scanned, and if he has CTE, oh boy, there could be another wave of CTE settlements coming, and there should be better help for these players. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.